Yes. Hello. Good afternoon. It's been quite a while that I've decided to just go on live. Well, I thought I've taken off not a break, but just a complete stop from all things Gambia. But then again, in as much as I say that I don't want to discuss Gambia, it's painful not to discuss the Gambia. And I think we are all duty bound to have a dialogue. We're all duty bound to make our points and also tell the average Gambian what's wrong with our country. I may not indulge into politics, not because I'm scared, but I've decided that the average Gambian have decided what is good for them, and what is good for them is detrimental to our collective good. Therefore, 𝗪𝗪𝗁 will be only talking about things that affects us as it relates to policy and or tourism development. But I just don't want to venture going forward into a political discourse with any Gambian, because it's futile if you really understand where we are, where we came from, and where the country is heading. So no more shall 𝗪𝗪𝗁 be indulged in political discourse. But notwithstanding, 𝗪𝗪𝗁 will periodically come out and speak his mind as it relates to the business of running the country, as it relates to the economy. Back to the question that I pose as my title: what is wrong with the Gambian economy? Well, this may look or sound like a loaded question, but it's not loaded. It's plain old simple. Ronald Reagan once asked, is the economy stupid? No, the economy is not stupid, but the economy tends to punish people for making stupid decisions. And in this case, the Gambia has been punished severely for making unforced errors as it relates to the management and execution of our economy. Having said that, I will delve into two areas. One is of trade, and the other is of financing of fiscal issues, the budget of the economy. When the economy does well, Gambians are relatively prosperous. When the economy does well, better things happen for the average Gambian. Crime goes down, our health gets better, our living standards get better. But unfortunately, all these indices I've listed are heading south, and they're all getting worse. So therefore, something is fundamentally wrong with our economy. So the reason why I'm saying something is fundamentally wrong with our economy, all indicators that shows economic prosperity are southbound, and nothing is looking good as it relates to the economy. Be it inflation, be it people having savings, be it employment, you name it, everything is heading south. It's heading south not only because of global trends, i.e. what's happening in the global space. It has to do more so with what we're doing wrong as a nation, what we're doing wrong as a government, and this we need to talk about. I'll start with trade. If you look at Gambia in the 80s, Gambia used to be the supermarket of West Africa. And when I say West Africa, I'm talking about Liberia, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Mali, Guinea-Bissau, and even Senegal, our next door neighbors. Smuggling was very rampant in the 80s, where people come to Gambia, buy goods either by boats or by cars, and smuggle them into Senegal. Well, that spelled prosperity for the Gambian economy, because our import volumes went up. When the import volumes went up, businesses were doing good. A name like 𝗄𝗿𝗁, Ahmed Diab, Youssoufa Samba, these were household names in Senegalese houses. Why? Because they provided textiles to the Senegalese, and they provided more textile than Senegal as a whole imported. So that shows how thriving our economy was. If you go to places like Cotton Hill Street, you will see trucks waiting to be loaded, outbound for Liberia, outbound for Mali, outbound for Guinea. We used to have a place called 𝗲𝗵𝘁 Guinea behind the Box Bar Stadium towards the Mosque Road end. Every day you have 10-15 trucks leaving Gambia for Guinea. Not anymore. Well, these are indicators that can show you that our economy is faltering. Our economy is faltering because of poor public policy decisions taken by people who were either oblivious of the environment they live in, or they lack the basic understanding of growing, maintaining, and managing an economy. Yesterday, we heard Mr. Sidi Keita, the Minister of Trade, stating that it's a plus for Gambian goods to be imported via the port of Dakar. First, I will tell Mr. Keita respectfully that that's a fallacy. Secondly, I will also tell him that that notion is not supported by any economic school of thought. Therefore, what he said was his personal opinion, but it lacked theoretical economic backing to make that notion something that we can go by and something we can accept as a good policy prescription for the Gambia. In recent days, we have heard not only him, the Minister of Finance, and even the President stating that there's not much Gambia can do as it relates to there's not much we can do as it relates to the commodity pricing in the country. Well, there is so much we can do, and what we can do is to run a clean, a tight, a competitive economy that will make sure that prices are reasonable. Today, the Gambian consumer is suffering because of the inefficiency in the market. The inefficiency in the market is a factor of the corruption that we see, is a factor of the dilapidated public infrastructure, i.e. ports, i.e. roads, etc., etc., and the bureaucratic red tape that people go through just to get their goods out of the ports. Today, if you ship a container from the northeastern seaboard of the United States, i.e. from New York all the way down to Miami, it takes an average of 15 days to get to Dakar. But to the contrary, it takes an average of 35 to 45 days to get to Gambia. That in itself is an added cost. And once it comes, boats don't dock, or ships don't dock at port as soon as they call to the port. Why? Because our infrastructure at the port cannot handle the traffic that's coming in country. Therefore, these are added to the prices because importers are not charitable organizations. They are profit-making entities that are set out to make profit. Therefore, if their goods come to port and a ship has to wait 8 days, 10 days before they dock, there will be demurrage, and that demurrage will be charged or passed on to the Gambian consumer. Therefore, it makes price distortions a reality, and when prices are distorted, they are distorted upward most of the time rather than downwards. Therefore, we will tend to see our price levels going up. When price levels go up, inflation gets on the rise. When inflation gets on the rise, that's when the average Gambian consumer tend to realize that the value of their money has gone down, and has gone down significantly. So, Mr. Trade Minister, you are wrong. Mr. Trade Minister, your prescription is not something that will solve the Gambian problem. The Gambian problem as it relates to food security will be solved if the government realizes that we are a small, open economy that is prone to things that are beyond our control. And the only way out is first and foremost for the government of the Gambia to come out with what we call an import substitution strategy. An import substitution strategy will look at the low-hanging fruits of things that Gambia need not import and make sure we produce locally. We'll start with vegetables, juices. These are simple things that doesn't take much, nor does it require heavy technology to do. If we do that, we will cut our import bill. When we cut our import bill, our net balance of trade will go down. When our net balance of trade goes down, our need for foreign exchange goes down, especially if our productive capacity has gone down. We have seen tourism on the decrease. We have seen our exports on the decrease. Therefore, we are not getting international receipts as it relates to foreign currency that much. So therefore, having an import substitution strategy will be the first step towards making sure that price stability is a reality in the Gambia. But why is it that common sense is not common? Why is it that the Ministry of Trade is not thinking like many an economist will think, to say that if our productive base is not producing as much as it should, there is trouble for the country. When there is trouble for the country, we need to find strategies that will ensure that lives and livelihood continue without disruptions and interruptions that are going to be heartfelt by the average poor Gambian. That's just one. Secondly, the budget of this country is also a major problem why this country is suffering. Over the past 3 years, we have seen the Gambian budget grow significantly. There is nothing wrong with a budget growing, but the growth of any budget should commensurate with its revenue. And we have seen that our revenue is not in line with the growth rate of our budget. The growth rate of the budget is faster than our income. That is also troubling, and it is very reckless, and it defies any conventional economic logic. So I want to ask the question, who is thinking in the government to make sure that this economy not only stays afloat, stays relatively competitive vis-a-vis its neighbors, stays relatively stable so that the average Gambian will not feel the disruptions in the country? I've decided I'm not going to delve in the political issues because Gambians have made a choice. And the choice they've made, they have to live with it. And living with it means going through the hardships that we're being faced with right now as a country. But we just want to advise the Ministry of Trade that understanding the dynamics of the economy, understanding the dynamics of our neighbors' economy and their intentions are the first steps towards coming up with a policy that will not only be sustainable but will be beneficial to the Gambia and the Gambian economy. So, Mr. Minister of Trade, I don't know what your understanding of the environment that we live in, i.e. the ECOWAS market and the Senegambian market to begin with. I don't know what your understanding of the local dynamics that underpin the Gambian economy. We all know that the average Gambian is a daily paid worker who earns less than $2 a day. We all know that the rate of inflation is so fast that $2 that the average Gambian is earning has been eroded to nothing less than $1.40 in real terms. If you take a discounted value of their $2, they are only fetching $1.40 in terms of value. So, Mr. Minister of Trade, it's your responsibility to make sure that their hard-earned $2 is protected from inflation, especially on commodity pricing. We all know that rice is a staple. We all know that the government of the Gambia has zero-rated rice as it relates to duty. And that is not a good thing, because the savings that are made by the importer of rice is not being passed on to the Gambian consumer of rice. So who is benefiting from a zero-rated duty of rice importation? Is the importer of rice, not the end user who buys rice a cup at a time. So I urge the Minister of Trade to find solutions that are going to keep this economy afloat and make households not too unbearable as it relates to their expenditures. The average Gambian is poorer today than 5 months ago. The average Gambian is poorer today than 2 years ago. And things are going to get worse. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse because we lack people at the highest offices to understand what this economy needs. The Gambian economy is in need of a jolt, like an electric shock. But the jolt that it needs is to kickstart economic growth and prosperity. But for us to kickstart economic growth and prosperity, we need to redefine the Gambian economy. We need to reposition the Gambian economy. We need to come up with policies that will make Gambia competitive. And making Gambia competitive starts with understanding the value proposition of the Gambia. What is our value proposition? What do we have to offer that others are not offering? What are our strengths? What are the Achilles heel or the weaknesses of the Gambian economy? These are the premises or bases that we need to use to come up and formulate policies that will insulate us from being swallowed by the global economy and the regional economy, and to an extension the Senegambian economy. Gambia, whether we like it or not, we have relegated ourselves to be another region of Senegal. Yes, we are de facto the next region of Senegal, for the simple fact our internet comes from Senegal, a bulk of our electricity comes from Senegal, the vegetables we consume comes from Senegal, and of late most of the petroleum products coming in country comes from Senegal. A bulk of our cement comes from Senegal. The condiments, being 𝗪𝗁, be it milk, powdered milk or others, comes from Senegal. So de facto, whether we like it or not, we are no longer running a national economy. We are running a sub-regional economy that is an extension of the Senegalese national economy. What does that mean? It means, in simple layman's term, the Gambian economy has been consumed by the Senegalese economy. And this in itself is the problem. And this in itself is something that our policymakers are blind, oblivious, or indifferent to. We cannot change our fortunes if we don't realign, redefine, and reposition the Gambian economy. The Gambian economy has been made destitute by the managers of the Gambian economy, the government of the Gambia. The Gambian economy is no longer an independent entity that decides what's good and what's bad for them. We are literally at the mercy of our next door neighbors, and unknowingly to the people who manage this economy, we have been consumed. See, in this world, you either become a producer or you get consumed in the business of consumption. And Gambia has been consumed in the business of consumption by our next door neighbor, because we refuse to step up and we refuse to protect the gains that have been made over the past 35 to 40 years. And these gains are eroding day in, day out. There was a time the Gambian port was one of the most efficient ports in West Africa. The turnaround time for ships to come in and outbound of the Gambia was so fast. Many businesses in the sub-region will rather drop their goods in the Gambia and truck it elsewhere. Those days are long gone, thanks to corruption and thanks to the stupidity and incompetence of the people who formulate policy for us. Therefore, the Minister of Trade has a handful That is, if he knows what he is doing. There's one thing occupying a position. There is another thing being effectively occupying a position. And as it stands, the minister is not effectively occupying the position of the Ministry of Trade. And this is causing stress, undue pain, undue hardship to the population of this country. It's easy to blame everything on the president, but it's honorable when people don't know what they're doing to just step aside and tell whoever appoints them that you have given me an assignment that is over and beyond my pay grade. And the way the Gambian economy as it relates to trade is going, either it is beyond the pay grade of the current minister, or he just don't know what to do. Now on the issue of finance, we all know that the global economy has suffered setbacks due to the pandemic. We all know that the economy of the world has slowed down significantly due to the pandemic. But in theoretical economics, we have what you call resilience strategies. Most, if not all, global economies are employing resilient strategies to make sure that they combat the losses that they have made over the past 36 months. And in so doing, they're cutting down their budgets. In so doing, they're redefining their economies. In so doing, they are redirecting their economies to areas that they believe they have better comparative advantage relative to others. But the Gambian economy is yet to do that. We know that the Gambian economy heavily relied on tourism, and we have seen how tourism has been decimated over the past 24 to 36 months. And yet still, we are yet to see the government get back to the drawing board, find a resilient strategy to make sure Gambia keeps afloat and Gambia keeps on going without tourism. We are yet to hear any pronouncement from the government of the Gambia to state unequivocally that yes, tourism was a big contributor to the national economy, and we haven't lost it wholly, but we have lost it significantly, and we need to find other means to make sure the Gambian economy stays afloat. Not much has been done, or at least we are yet to hear pronouncements from our Ministry of Finance as a way of redirecting the Gambian economy. But to add insult to injury, we have seen the government growing the national budget, not only growing the national budget, but requesting for supplementary appropriation after growing the economy, knowing fully too well that the economy is not doing well, knowing fully too well that taxation is not growing the economy but shrinking the Gambian economy, knowing fully too well that the anticipated tax receipts that they expected to collect, they're collecting less, and yet still year in, year out, they're growing the budget for political expedient reasons, i.e. financing projects such as infrastructure that are not self-liquidating, nor are we able to pay for them based on receipts being collected. We ask ourselves now, are we a serious nation? Or are the people who are running the country understand that they're not running a household? They're running a collective of households that constitute a nation, and the people in these households are suffering because their income is eroding thanks to inflation and price hike in price levels. Their income is stagnant, and their monies are not fetching as much as it used to. If they understand this, I think they'll find ways and means to make sure that they help the average Gambian. Right now, it's not only UDP militants who are suffering, or DOI militants, or Citizen Alliance militants. NPP militants who were jubilating are also equally suffering. That is why we say that we are in a boat called the Gambia. When a hole is made on the boat and the water starts coming in, it's a collective problem, and this collective problem is what is making us suffer as a nation. And the solutions are not political, and the solutions will never be political. The solutions will be technical, and in this technical endeavor, either the people who are in power and choose to be in power should listen to people to provide solutions that will take us out of this predicament we find ourselves. If they don't listen for us to find solutions to this predicament, in the medium term, they themselves, the people that are in power, will be consumed by a disgruntled nation. So everything that's happening today will one day culminate into a social uprising, will culminate into a disenchanted population, will culminate into a chaotic and a disorderly society. And that is not good for governance. That is not good to keep this government going. I therefore urge the powers that be to understand that what we are facing today is the beginning of a long hardship to come. Gambia has gone through this in the 70s, 80s, and guess what? We had to swallow the bitter pill. The bitter pill is called Economic Recovery Program. And in Economic Recovery Program, there has to be a national sacrifice. The national sacrifice is we forego a lot of things. It starts with the luxuries. It starts with the State House cutting its budget. It starts with defense cutting its budget. It starts with government retrenching people. It starts with government reorganizing the economy. And without this, we are doomed. Without this, we are in a long haul for a brutal reawakening. I thought we were awoke, but a brutal awakening that is going to show Gambians that you either take care of the economy or the economy takes care of you. And when the economy takes care of you, it doesn't look good. It's very bitter. So, I am pleading with the powers that be that all is not well in the land of the river. I am pleading and bringing to their attention that Gambians are suffering en masse. Gambians are feeling the pinch of a crumbling economy. Gambians are feeling the pinch of a decadent economy that is rife with corruption, that is rife with inefficiency, and that is rife with incompetence. Why should I suffer? Why should the next Gambian suffer? Because of the incompetence of someone that is hired by the taxpayer to take care of the economic needs of the country. We want to know, and we deserve to know, whether these people think they're running a household or they're running a country. The budget of the Gambia should decrease at least by 8 to 10% by now, considering the contraction of our national economy. It baffles me to see the government deciding to pay CFOs and alcalos. I don't have any problem with that, because that will only enhance governance. But in a nation where we have competing priorities, the government must prioritize our utmost priorities and really put sense into our expenditure patterns. Our expenditure patterns, as is right now, is not good for anybody. Our expenditure patterns, our national expenditure patterns, i.e. the budget, is detrimental to the collective good of Gambia and Gambians. So I wonder if there is anyone thinking, and the Ministry of Finance is equipped with great fiscal economists, great macro economists. And I beg to ask, what has become of these economists? Are they not empowered to realign the economy? Are they not empowered to come up with strategies that will jolt and kickstart the economy for prosperity? They know right and wrong because they're well lettered. But it begs the question, why are they not prescribing what the economy needs as prescriptions? Our economy is sick, and a sick economy needs medicine, and the medicine we need right now is called austerity. And in austerity it means cutting, and in cutting comes sacrifice. But it looks like we are expanding the fiscal front when the national economy is contracting. That is stupidity 101. And I wonder who in their right mind will go to bed and sleep as a manager of the economy and allow the economy to falter. And economies are slow-moving mechanisms. Once they lose traction, it's going to be very difficult to kickstart an economy. So therefore, all is not lost, but a lot has been lost. But we better start somewhere rather than continue this abysmal life, a life of destitute, a life whereby in the early to mid 90s, even to the late 90s, the government has done well in terms of taking people out of poverty. We have seen the highly indebted poor country come up with the World Bank coming up with strategies just like the poverty reduction strategy, PRSP, where we have uplifted many a Gambian families out of poverty, and now these people are falling back below the poverty line. Destitution and poverty has become a way of life in the Gambia. Beggars all over, to the point our men in uniform standing on traffic checkpoints. It's sad, but they're becoming uniform beggars because they're begging instead of inspecting cars. Is the government of the Gambia aware of the level that poverty has entrenched in this country? If that's the case, they should understand that some of the investments we're making, i.e. infrastructure investments, are not the priorities of the average Gambian. The priority of the average Gambian is to stay afloat. The priority of the average Gambian is to have a dignified livelihood of being able to have a minimum of 2 to 3 square meals a day, being able to take their kids to school, being able to take care of their kids once they fall sick. And this has eluded the average Gambian. And that's why we need a pause. We need to think, and those that have been hired by the government to take care of the economy must take this work diligently and seriously, starting with the Ministry of Finance. We cannot live in a country whereby we wake up every day to new price levels. We cannot live in a country whereby the saving rates of the average Gambian has gone to the negative, meaning we are no longer savers. We don't even have enough to take care of ourselves on a daily basis. That is not a prosperous nation, and that is not a nation heading towards the promised land. It's a nation that is in trouble. It's a nation that needs help, and the help that the nation needs is the powers that be to be honest with themselves and stop blaming the global economy for the economic woes of this country. The economic woes of this country are born because of corruption, are born because of ineptitude, and are born because of indifference and lack of plight for the suffering masses of this country. I am bothered, I am worried that very soon, very, very, very soon, we will see what we haven't seen in this country in a long, long time. And that is social upheaval. A hungry man is an angry man. And Mr. President, I want to give you a warning with an open mind and an open heart. I love this country just like you love this country, or even maybe more. And because of that, Mr. President, it's high time we speak truth to you. I do believe you are insulated from the national realities that plague your average citizen. Your average citizen is suffering, Mr. President. Your average citizen is living a life that is not dignified. Your average citizen is not seeing prosperity and will not see prosperity anytime soon unless and until we reorganize the economy, unless and until we put this economy in a right footing. And the right footing we need to put this economy, Mr. President, is to restructure the sectors of the economy. Restructuring the sectors of the economy starts with us trying to be a semi-producer nation, not manufacturer, but producer nation. Rice, by now, we should be able to cultivate 40 to 45% of our consumption. Vegetables, we should be able to cultivate 80 to 90% of what we consume. Mr. President, that's the beginning of bringing back dignity into the lives and livelihoods of Gambians. Yes, you are right. The season of politics is past, and I do hope you, Mr. President, understand that and live by it. If that's the case, you and your ilk would not have paraded Mr. 𝗲𝗺𝗁 Conte to a dehumanizing thing of trying to show that he is on your side. We all should be in the side of Gambia, and we all should roll our sleeves and start working for Gambia. And working for Gambia starts with putting Gambians and the Gambian way of life in a dignified manner. We have too many beggars who hate begging, but they have to beg because they have to survive. And that is the fault of the people who manage the policy of this country, not the global economy. It's flimsy and easy to shift all the problems of this country to the global economy. Yes, the global economy has created structural problems for every national economy in the world. But with these structural problems, each national economy is coming up with strategies to be resilient, strategies to be defiant of what the global economy is dishing out. And Gambia as a nation is not doing anything to be a defiant economy amidst the threats posed by the global economy. Mr. President, I challenge your government to show me over the past 3 to 4 years of COVID one stringent, defiant policy that they put to make our national economy resilient. None. Zero. Mr. President, I want to ask you, show me one country that have increased spending other than the big five, the Russias, the United States, who have the ability to do so because they have gold reserves and they can print money. What have you done, Mr. President, to curtail our national budgets? Nothing. Instead, you and your team are advocating for the growth of our national budget against the backdrop of an ailing economy. You are advocating for more expenditures amidst an economy that is not doing good. Our economy right now, Mr. President, needs help. The help that it needs is called sacrifice. And this sacrifice is a collective endeavor. And this must be felt by every Gambian. And it starts with cutting. And cutting where it matters most. Unnecessary expenditure and expenditures that we can defer. If we don't do that, we don't love our country. It's like holding a pistol and shooting yourself on the foot. That's exactly what we are doing as a nation. And I am pleading that the days of politicking have passed. This is the time we all need to roll our sleeves and salvage our country, the Gambia. In salvaging Gambia, we will all suffer. If not, we will not bequeath a better Gambia to the next generation. And not only will we not bequeath a better Gambia, we will be living on their time. What do I mean by we will be living on their time? The borrowing we are making today will be paid for by people who have no business paying for the lifestyle we choose to live today. So is our economy stupid? The answer is no. But the managers of our economy are either incompetent, indifferent, or just don't care. And this is painful because the Gambian lot deserves better. This is painful because there is undue hardships to Gambian households that they don't deserve. So, Mr. President, since you are saying you have a caretaker government, please do take time. Scrap your parliament, your cabinet, and please hire Gambians who can bring about the change that we need at the policy level. Bring in people who will tell you what you don't want to hear, but what will be good for the greater good of the Gambian lot. As it is right now, our trade sector is in the biggest mess it has found in itself. The only benefactors of our trading system today are the importers, not the end users of commodity. And like I said, rice is a classic example. Since we have zero-rated rice and put zero duty on rice, we haven't seen the price levels of rice going down. The only thing we have seen, rice going up. So why take the duty out if it's not going to filter down to the average Gambian? Basically, we have created fat for the importer of rice to maximize the margin they make on their cost of goods once sold. Mr. Minister, again, the Ministry of Finance, a critical nerve center of the Gambian economy, is in dire strait. Dire strait in the sense that economic management of this country has never been this poor. Economic management of our country has never been this reckless. Reckless in the sense that we are borrowing more than we can afford. We are spending on things that we cannot pay for, but we are going to use future generations of Gambians to pay for these things. That is reckless and that is selfish. I'll also remind you of a cliche called political expediency. Mr. President, your actions have been politically expedient because people are clapping for you that roads are being built, but people are not asking, how are we financing these roads? Are we getting value for money? And these are things, Mr. President, any conscientious person, leader, should, once they put their head on their pillow, ask themselves, am I fair to country? Am I doing right to country? Am I fair with the next generation of Gambians yet unborn? If you feel comfortable answering these questions, Mr. President, then the actions we're seeing today as policy actions from your government will not be the actions we're seeing. We would have been seeing something different, and that is to curtail public expenditure. But Mr. President, to whom much is given, much is expected. I'm not going to sit here and clamor about whether the election was fair or not, but based on the figures of the turnout and the votes that have voted for you, you are now duty bound to do right by Gambians. And doing right by Gambians is to reorganize our economy, is to make sure that our economy stands on the right footing once again. If not, Gambia will be the 11th region of Senegal. And Gambia is heading towards being the 11th region of Senegal. Like I said, our electricity, our internet, our defense, our petroleum, our vegetables, our kitchen condiments, everything, it's coming from Senegal. What are we good for as a nation? And mind you, our forefathers said, Ligay jotna Gambia amna bopam. Gambia no longer mom bopam. Because we have outsourced our national deliverables to a second country to take care of us. Be it our security, be it our livelihoods in terms of the food we eat, our electricity and internet. And yet still we believe all is well. All is not well, Mr. President. And that's why you need to wake up from this slumber and do something. And finally, on the issue of Casamance, I think a Casamance is a thorny issue that has affected and eluded Senegalese governments for decades. They are unable to stop the insurgency in the south of their country. They are unable to establish a military outpost on the fringes of their border with the Gambia for over 23 to 27 years. There is no way the Senegalese army will put in place a military outpost anywhere near the Gambian-Fonyi border because they know the strength of the rebels there. Therefore, it baffles me that the government of the Gambia will allow the Senegalese to have a military outpost on Gambian soil only to do a hit and run and come back to the Gambia. That is against our sovereignty. That is against our pride. And that is against everything an independent sovereign state stands for. Therefore, Mr. President, we need to have a revisit as it relates to the problem in Senegal, particularly Casamance. Bir bu dawi Casamance, Gambia warut se am tati rocheku. Let us stay out of this mess. If we cannot be an honest broker of peace, let us not be used to be somebody or a country that will take side in a problem that we have no business in. Also on the issue of the wood, Mr. President, we know that the total cubic meters of wood exported out of Gambia cannot come out from the Gambian forest cover. Yet still your government has been giving certificates of origin to exporters who are exporting wood from the Gambia, knowing fully too well that that is not wood of Gambian origin. Our actions as a nation, and by extension our government, is the fuel that is adding to the fire that is bringing trouble in Casamance. If if we want to see a safe and better Casamance, we should have a blockade on the export of wood, not only for the environment, but for peace and stability of not only Casamance, but our citizens who are living on the fringes of the Senegalese-Gambian border in 𝗪𝗺. The people of 𝗪𝗺 deserve peace. The people of 𝗪𝗺 deserve a dignified life where their kids can go to school, where the farmers can roam their patches without the fear of landmines, without the fear of being abducted by Senegalese forces or otherwise. And that's the responsibility of the government. And our government to date are reneging on their responsibility to take care of what needs to be taken care of to make sure the Gambian lives in a safe environment whereby we come first, not Senegal. We come first. Equally, we cannot call ourselves a neutral party and allow ECOWAS to station Senegalese military right in front of the rebel positions in Casamance. We have Nigeria, we have Ghana. Why don't we bring the Nigerian or the Ghanaian contingent to be in our southern border with Senegal, thereby not allowing the Senegalese soldiers to be loggerheads with the rebel positions in the south? That is something that you need to take care of, and that is something you need to ask ECOWAS to take care of. You cannot love Gambia and put Gambians at risk. And today, Mr. President, we are at risk because we are allowing the rebels to bring their war into our country, and we have no business in this. You need to look at 𝗪𝗁 in the eye and say your interests has collided with the interests of the greater good of Gambians, and there is no way the Gambia is going to allow your military to be head-on with the Senegalese Casamance separatist rebels. Therefore, we are going to move you to Barra, we're going to move you to all other points, and we'll allow the Nigerians or the Ghanaians to take center stage along the border with Casamance. Then and only then, Mr. President, I will reaffirm your independence. Then and only then, Mr. President, I will understand that you understand the interests of the Gambia. Mr. President, we are at a crossroads. Mr. President, we are right now heading to a new chapter of the Gambian social life, which is going to be unbearable because the economy is showing us signs of stagnation. The economy is showing us signs of further contraction. And it's time for your government to come up with resilient strategies to make sure that the plight of the Gambian will not dampen. The plight of the Gambian will not dip for further suffering. We are at your mercy because you have the right to hire and fire people who serve the collective interest. And as I speak to you, most in your cabinet are either not fit for purpose morally, ethically, or intellectually. And all these three things are affecting lives and livelihoods of the average Gambian. But everything falls on your shoulders and rests on your conscience to do right by country and take care of the needs of the Gambian. Never have we suffered this much. I am seeing more dignified Gambians begging today than ever before. That shows an ailing economy. That shows a major structural problem in our economy. The purchasing power of the Gambian has dwindled. The economic chances of a Gambian making a life and a livelihood in Gambia is eroding. Something needs to give in, and what needs to give in is called sacrifice. And the sacrifice, Mr. President, starts with you understanding that your safety, your well-being, and for you to continue to be in power is for you to have a population that is happy, prosperous, healthy, and at peace. Today, these things are lacking. They are lacking because you are either insulated from the realities on the ground, or you are oblivious of what may happen based on what's going on. So please, Mr. President, do yourself a favor by doing right by us and putting the Gambian issues that are festering today at the forefront of your business agenda. Get a cabinet that can solve your problems and our problems collectively. Get a cabinet that is conscientious enough to do right by Gambia. And please redefine your relationship with Senegal. Most of us are more Senegalese than you are, but we don't like the manner in which the relationship is going right now. The government of the Gambia is eroding our nationality, our sovereignty, and this, by extension, has fast become a problem. And this problem is not helping no one. Therefore, good day and good